Court just ruled on a really important issue.
It all started when Trump tried to use an executive order to end birthright citizenship in the U.S. A lawsuit was filed over the order, arguing that it was unconstitutional. In federal district court, meaning the lowest initial court, the judge agreed it was likely unconstitutional and issued what's called an injunction. Put simply, an injunction is just an order from a court making something stop until it can be litigated fully later. Basically, hey, stop what you're doing now until we all come together at a trial and figure it out later.
The interesting thing about injunctions at federal court is that federal law applies throughout the nation. So injunctions here have historically been applied to everyone, everywhere in the country. What the court calls nationwide injunctions.
But the Supreme Court just ruled that federal courts can't do this anymore.
While this ruling didn't actually address whether ending birthright citizenship was legal or not, it was still a truly massive decision because nationwide injunctions have been one of the strongest tools for federal courts in the last few years, particularly to stop executive orders from presidents.
For example, you might recall Trump's travel ban for majority Muslim countries was stopped with an injunction from a federal judge in Washington state. Just like how Biden's order that all healthcare workers in Medicaid facilities must get vaccinated for COVID was stopped with an injunction from a judge in Louisiana. There are tons of these examples lately.
And while it's important to note that nationwide injunctions have been used against presidents of both parties, their use lately has been increasing at staggering levels, and they've targeted Trump more than any other president. Reports show that there were 6 nationwide injunctions during George W. Bush's presidency, 12 with Obama, 28 with Biden, and a whopping 86 during just Trump's first term.
Some say federal judges are getting too big for their britches and trying too hard to hamstring Trump.
Whereas others say that Trump is just doing way more unconstitutional stuff and so is logically facing more pushback from courts.
And overall, there are arguments on both sides of the Supreme Court decision. Supporters of the court's decision say that giving a single federal district court judge the power to ban executive actions nationwide gives them way too much power, effectively turning them into unelected national policymakers with as much power as the president. In that forum shopping, meaning filing a lawsuit in a district with a super conservative or super liberal judge, leads to biased decisions that will affect the entire country.
On the other hand, opponents of the ruling point out that it is the role of the judiciary to keep the president in check and prevent unconstitutional acts, and that by removing the nationwide injunction from federal courts, serious harm could take place if an executive order must go all the way up to the Supreme Court before it's finally ruled unconstitutional.
Politically, this whole issue could go both ways. While a Republican is currently president, the dissent posits a hypothetical future liberal president who issues an executive order to seize all private firearms. Because of this ruling, federal courts would now not be able to immediately stop this unconstitutional order.
So this really all comes down to what power you think a federal judge should have.